One of the most harrowing and brutal photographs of the Second World War shows a smiling member of the French resistance whilst he stares at a German execution squad who are all there with their rifles primed ready to take the shot. It was an execution, though, that was repeated thousands of times across occupied countries that fell under German control, as many people suffered the wrath of the Nazi death squads and were executed by the Einsatzgruppen. Resistors were treated with contempt and were often dealt with very severely by the Gestapo and the SS, and many of them were executed and paid the ultimate price for their defiance against the Germans. But what is the story of the execution of the smiling French resistor? It's not what you would expect. Join us today as we look at this, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. George Blind was the man who was at the centre of the image. He was born on the 17th of November 1904, and he grew up to become a member of the Fire Brigade in the town of Belfort. He was dedicated to his role in the town, and he would do anything to save people. There was one time where he was commended by the mayor, and he said, "It has been reported to me that when called to rescue a person suffocated by lighting gas, you succeeded after an hour and a half of efforts to revive the victim, thus bringing a total of 21 the number of successes recorded to your credit." He was a skilled fireman, but he was also in a good place to help the French resistance. The Germans occupied the town of Belfort, and because of his job he could easily move around the town without any questions being asked, even at night. There was very little suspicion on him, and along with other members of the Fire Brigade, he helped to transport resistance members, information and even weapons from one place to another. He was almost serving as a courier for the resistance, but over time he attracted suspicion, and the Nazis then arrested him on the 14th of October 1944. He had been serving the resistance network for the Farand group. However, his execution was not one which was straightforward. The image of the execution of George Blind was one that was actually staged. He was subject to a mock execution. This is where a victim is deliberately tricked into thinking that their execution is imminent or is about to take place. It is in a sense psychological torture and could go very far. Some victims would be blindfolded and would even be forced to dig their own graves beforehand. Unloaded guns would also be held to their heads, and the trigger would sometimes be pulled, or blanks would be shot at them. It was a brutal and horrific ordeal, and it was this that George Blind was subjected to. He was then taken to his mock execution to try and get him to talk, but instead of this he stared at the executioners and just smiled. This took place just outside of the Citadel of Belfort, and it was referred to as a smiling shot. He refused to continue to talk, and because of this, he was sent with other prisoners for a camp. Blind was then sent to Dachau concentration camp, as he would not give ever any information about further resistance activities. Because of this, he was imprisoned in one of the first concentration camps which was opened by the Nazis. But then he was one of 1,014 deportees from Dachau, who were then selected to go on to Auschwitz. But then he was moved to the Belfort concentration camp, and there were 10 prisoners who were considered to have been contagious or infected with some sort of disease. One of these was George Blind, who it's believed was then killed inside of this concentration camp. But the image of George Blind survived the war, and it is one which is considered one of the most iconic of the Second World War. But the image is not really what is most believed, as he was not executed at the end of the firing squad, but the horrific reality of George Blind's story is that he actually died inside of a concentration camp, like millions of other people, during the Second World War. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.